Okay, class. So today we're going to be talking about World War II. And go ahead and get your notebooks out, and we're going to just copy down some notes and talk about some of the beginning stuff before we get into the more detailed stuff. So go ahead and copy down the standard on this side. By the end of this lesson, or during this lesson, you will explain the reasons for American involvement in World War II. And then we'll also learn more about describing Germany's aggression in Europe and Japan's aggression in Asia. Do we know where Europe and Asia are? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good job. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe major events in the war in both Europe and the Pacific. So go ahead and write down chapter 11, lesson 1. That's where we are in the book. So we're not going to read out the book today, but if you would like to follow along, you can turn to that page. And we're talking about World War II. Don't forget in your notebooks to copy down both the standard, the I can statement, as well as the lesson heading and the date. All right, so I'll give you guys a moment to go ahead and do that. Yes. Okay, so let's get started. In the last unit, we talked a lot about what major event that happened in the 1930s. Ayana.
The Great Depression.
The Great Depression. Very good job. So we're still talking about that same era, okay? So we're in between 1933 and 1941. And about how long did the Great Depression last?
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Okay, very good job. So we're going to be building on what we know. Can you tell when a storm is coming? The wind is strong, the sky turns dark, and you hear thunder far away. In the 1930s, many people saw war coming like a storm in the distance. So there's a lot going on, not only in America, but all over the world. And eventually, it led to World War II. So we'll get to talking about some of the reasons that the war started, as well as some of the events of the war and what happened at the end. Okay, so let's start with the beginning. The Great Depression affected countries around the world. A lack of jobs and money gave people a reason to want a strong leader. So after World War I, there's a lot of financial problems, not just in America, but all over the world, okay? So don't think that just because we learn about the Depression here in America, that this was the only place that had to deal with the Depression. The global economy, which includes all the countries all over the world, was affected a lot by the Great Depression and the stock market crash. All right, so with people not having jobs and money, they were really desperate for a very, very strong leader. And don't forget that we talked about a similar effect happening here in America. Who was president during the time of World War II? Does anybody know?
Herbert Hoover.
No. Thank you for raising your hand, Charisma. Kalia. Who was president?
Oh.
Parents. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president. And who was president before him? Judah.
Herbert Hoover.
Herbert Hoover. That's hard to say. Herbert Hoover was president before Franklin Roosevelt. Thank you. So we talked a lot about the reasons that made it a little bit easier for President Roosevelt to become president. And what was that? What were the differences in between the way that Herbert Hoover looked at the economy and President Roosevelt?
How was Hoover during his president time? It was like a lot of like the Great Depression was happening, and people like they didn't really trust him.
Okay, yeah, the people didn't really trust him to handle the economy. Storm.
Hoover dealt with the economy. He thought that it wasn't a big deal, that it shouldn't change and the government should say things. But Roosevelt thought that it should change and we should come out with programs that will help our citizens.
Okay, that's a very good job. So President Hoover just thought that the economy was going to fix itself, right? And was that correct?
No.
No. So what did President Roosevelt come along and do differently, Ayana?
He promised to the country that he would change the world into a better place, and that's
it. He made promises to the country. That's exactly what he did. So, Asia, can you explain to us how he put those promises into effect when he became president?
He came up with different programs to help the citizens of America to get back on their feet with their economy, and it helped them, a lot. Well, it worked. A lot of unemployed people would have more jobs because Roosevelt helped them find jobs.
Okay, that's very good. Does anybody remember what that set of programs was called? The New Deal. Thank you. You guys are doing really good today. All right. So, in America around the time of the Depression, Americans were really looking for a strong leader. So President Roosevelt came to the forefront. He made promises. People believed in him and they trusted him, and they elected him as president. Something similar happened in Germany. A ruler named Adolf Hitler led what was called the Nazi Party, and they used fascism, which is one of our vocabulary words during this unit, to control the economy, the culture, where people went, what people wore, what religion that they thought was best. So Hitler was what is known as a dictator. Does anybody think they know what a dictator is?
Somebody who rules over.
Yeah, a dictator is somebody who rules over a place unfairly because they use fear and violence to control the people that they control. So I would be a dictator if I came into the classroom and I yelled at you guys a lot and I was really aggressive and I used violence. I don't use violence. And I can use violence to keep you guys in line, but no, I actually use snacks. So, Hitler became dictator of Germany with the promise of making Germany a strong nation again. After World War I, Germany was one country that was really having a very hard time bouncing back as far as the economy was concerned. So the whole country was really poor, and they were really looking to their leadership for somebody to pull them out of that financial rut that they were in. So when Hitler came along, originally all of his ideas seemed like they were really good ideas. People were really excited because he was talking about making Germany great again. But what he did not include in his speeches in the very beginning was the method that he would use to accomplish the goals that he had set out for the country. So, at the same time, in Italy, Benito Mussolini, who was the leader, he ruled as a dictator as well. And him and Hitler, they became friends. So they both used fear and violence as well as racism. So make sure that we're getting all three of these vocabulary words included in the lesson. And if you have any questions about what any of these words mean, be sure to let me know. So they also use racism to isolate individuals and blame problems on them. Do you have a question?
Yes. What does race
Racism.
Racism? What racism is? Okay. So, can anybody help Ayana with what racism means?
When somebody says that, that someone is made, somebody's other than and then people like them.
Okay, yes. So when one person thinks that they are better than another person based on their race, is that what you're saying? Okay, so that's a really good way to understand it, but another thing that I need you guys to understand is that racism is all about the structure that we live in, our government, the way our society is set up. It's about the institutions that that determine our lives. So someone is considered racist when they can use their power against you because of your skin color. Okay? Not just me saying in the classroom, well, I don't like black people. That is discrimination and that is prejudice, which we talked about in the previous unit. But if I said you can't be in my class because you're black, that's me using my power against you because of your race. Okay? So that's exactly what Hitler did. He used his power as the leader of Germany to discriminate against people who didn't look like him. And the Nazi Party the Nazi is their short name. The long name is the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And the word Nazi is short for a really long German word that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. You have a question? Okay. But part of the Nazi platform was the belief that the Aryan people were superior or better than other people of the world. And Aryan people tend to have lighter skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. So everybody underneath that to Hitler was beneath him, even though he had black hair and regular color eyes and a really weird black mustache. It was really weird. I'll show you guys a picture later. So even though he didn't look like the people that he was advocating for or in support of, he still used his power to discriminate against people. Yes, Gina. All right, is everything okay? Go ahead. Okay, so he used racism, and the group of people that he was racist against were Jewish people. That is one group. He was actually racist to black people, homosexuals, people who practice witchcraft, anybody that he didn't agree with or understand. He used his power to keep them down.
So the people just let him do everything that he wanted.
Okay, so that's the thing to understand about dictators. It's not that people let him do whatever he wanted to do. By the time people knew and really understood some of the things that he was doing that was really evil, he had already gained so much power and had become a world leader, and it was just too late. People were really scared of him. By the time people found out that he was using his power to isolate people, to take people out of their homes, to eventually murder people, then it was too late at that point. It took World War II to kind of defeat not only Hitler, but also Mussolini and the leader of Japan. Ayana.
When you said that he murdered people, why did he murder them for no reason?
Well, that's kind of a complicated question because the reasons that he did gave is that he felt that the Jewish people were inferior or less than the Aryan class. So even though to us that doesn't seem like a good reason to murder somebody, that's the only reason that he gave.
But he just killed people for no reason. He can actually use those people for things like war. He don't have to use most of his people, and what if most of his people die and then he don't have nobody else?
Well, he didn't like these people, so he didn't want them to fight for his country. And also with World War One, and I'll give you with World War One, with Germany losing so bad, losing so much money and so much of their land being destroyed, the German people were kind of looking for somebody to put the blame on as far as why they lost the war to such an extent. So when Hitler came along, he blamed World War One on the Jewish people. So then the German people, they had no problem with agreeing with him because they kind of saw the Jewish people as lazy. Who said that? Good job. No. Okay. So where are we? Okay. Okay. So does everybody understand how how dictators use racism to isolate and to blame problems on them?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on. Germany, Italy, and Japan formed what is known as the Axis powers, or the Axis for short. And all the leaders of all three of these countries were known as fascists. All right, so the three of these countries, they got together, the leaders, and they told each other, we will help each other invade other people's countries, and if anybody tries to attack any one of us, we'll be on the same team. All right, so they were going around the world just being bullies, taking over people's countries, just hurting people. It was really bad, all right? So in Europe, Great Britain and France, they saw all this going on, and they got together and said, no, we got to put a stop to this. And they formed what's known as the Allied powers, or the Allies. So we got the Axis versus the Allies. And at this point in the war, we got 3 against 2, all right? So the Axis is really strong at this point. The Allies, they had no power at all. They approached Hitler and they asked him to stop invading other people's countries, and he was just like, yeah, okay, I guess that's cool. And then he lied. So on September 1st, 1939, Germany attacked Poland, which is a country that's not far from Germany.
Why did Hitler lie to a lot of countries that he was doing?
Probably lied to them just to get them off his back at the moment, even though he knew that he was still going to continue to do what he wanted to do. Because it was really important to Hitler to become a world leader, not just a leader of Germany. So he had to associate himself with other leaders from around the world, which especially Great Britain, which just happened to be one of the strongest countries in Europe at the time, as well as France.
Why did Japan come with Germany and Italy?
The leaders of Japan and Italy teamed up with Germany. Why? Why do you think? Storm.
So they can defend their country, and they didn't like Great Britain. They were trying to do them.
Okay, why else?
Well, because Hitler was a strong leader, and they were probably scared of him, so the only way they could not get overturned on him was to join him.
Hitler was a very strong leader, and I'm glad that you recognize that. And that probably is one reason is because they didn't want to be one of the countries getting taken over by Hitler, right? But what's one thing that the three of these countries have in common?
They went all three of them wanted to take down Great Britain and France.
Not exactly.
There are
They all had dictators. They all had fascist governments. They all had really controlling government systems. They all believed in the same thing. So it really wasn't that hard for Hitler to convince the other world leaders to join his team. Because they all believed the same thing. Alright? So after Hitler lied, he attacked Poland, and his attack in Poland was pretty bad. Alright? You know what? Okay, I just want to read this little bit with you guys. The Allies tried to stop Germany by signing an agreement with Hitler. Hitler promised not to invade any more countries. In return, the Allies agreed to let Germany keep the land it had already taken, which included Poland and Austria. So that's two countries that they got to keep if they kept their promise, but they didn't. So on September 1st, that's when Hitler attacked, and just like they promised, as Italy and Japan declared war on the Allies. Why would they do that?
They declared war. So Germany not attacking.
Yeah, because they didn't want to leave Germany out there by themselves, just hanging. When they had made a promise to Germany that they would defend them and be on their side no matter what. So once they saw the Allied team start to gang up on Germany, then these two strong governments and militaries, very strong, teamed up with Germany, and that's how we kind of started to see the beginning of the war happening.
But when Germany had promised that he would stop invading other countries, doesn't that mean that Italy and Japan have to do the same thing because they was under Germany headquarters?
Can you repeat the question?
Hmm?
Can you repeat the question?
I said, when Germany, how come Germany have to stop it? How come Italy and Japan have to declare war, but Italy and Japan was on the same headquarters as Germany, and they was going together, and all three of them attacked.
No. Italy and Japan didn't attack Poland. That was just Germany. Yeah, so I just want to make sure all you guys understand because it can be kind of confusing. So here's Poland all by themselves minding their own business. Here comes Germany attacking, fighting people, capturing people. It's real bad over here. So then the Allies, who are considered the good guys, came to rescue Poland. So now they're in a conflict with Germany. So when Italy and Japan see their friend Germany fighting with two other countries, they were like, no, we about to come fight. So they came over, and now it's 3 against 2.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, Germany started it, but
yes, Germany started it, but Italy and Japan joined in because of the promise that they made all the way back here when they formed the Axis.
So that was the point, because they went in the fight too,
right,
for Poland, but they put a promise that they wouldn't attack any more countries or land.
Right. So they went back on their promise.
So Germany, Italy, and Japan, so Germany, the first person to to attack was Germany,
Yes.
and then the Allies helped Portland,
Poland. Yes.
Poland.
Okay. So does everybody, Adrian?
But why did Germany attack Poland if Poland didn't do anything for Germany?
Because they wanted their land and their government and resources, and then also to attack the Jewish people that lived in the area.
So did Germany take the Jewish people from Poland and bring it to their country or their land, and they'll just kill the
The Jewish people.
yes.
And we'll talk a lot more about what Hitler did once he started rounding up Jewish people. We'll talk a lot more about the Holocaust and help you guys to understand some of the results of some of these beginning actions. But remember, we're still at the beginning, so you guys might know a little bit about the Holocaust, but we're still at the beginning. Tomorrow we'll still be talking about the very beginning of the war, so we still got a couple days before we get to that.
My sister did a project on the Holocaust, and she told me all about it.
Okay, and we'll talk about it more in class, so hopefully you have something that you can share with us. And then, where am I here? So by the end of 1941, Germany was in control of most of Europe. Even though the Allies had teamed up to start going against the Axis powers, they were not strong enough. All right, so Germany was in control of a lot of Europe, which you know how America is broken down into states. You have 50 states.
Yeah.
Well, the European continent is broken down into countries. So the German government was in control of a lot of the countries in Europe. And the Allies just were not strong enough to hold them off. They were not strong enough to beat them with it being 3 against 2. So what do you guys think is going to happen next? David? Yeah. So tomorrow we'll talk about America joining the war and what else is happening to get us going and get us started. But I just want to ask a few questions. How did the Allies try to stop Germany before September 1st, 1939?
Ooh.
They tried to make a promise or to sign an agreement with Hitler. And as we know, that did not work. He lied. Ayana. Delita.
The Allies approached Hitler, but Hitler promised that he was not going to attack any more countries, but he did and broke his promise.
Yes, he did. So we all know Hitler's a liar, right? And we'll really get into detail about Hitler and what kind of leader he was, because even though he was a strong leader, he wasn't a very good person.
The Allies let Germany keep land
Why do you think they would do that?
because he promised not take over.
But why do you think they would even allow him to keep the land that he had already taken by force? Jalen.
But they were afraid. They were afraid that they didn't
Not necessarily that they were afraid of him in that moment, but to keep the peace. They didn't want to anger him and start drama. The whole point of having the agreement with Hitler is to avoid the war. but that couldn't happen. That didn't happen. Ayana.
I have a question.
Mhm.
How come? I have a question.
I'm
How,
listening.
how come Great Britain and France couldn't get another country to support them and help with the war? Like America and Africa, Africa, Asia.
Well, eventually, America did step in. At that point, we were a little tiny bit better at minding our own business. So we were kind of staying out of this and seeing if, because this is all in Europe. So we were trying to see if they could work this out among themselves, but they couldn't.
So America joined in and started helping which team?
What team y'all think the
Allies.
The Allies. The Allies.
The reason we joined is because Japan first declared war on us.
Exactly. And we'll talk more about
The
what's
whole
that. What did they do, Jalen? What did they do to us?
I remember them saying that.
Pearl Harbor. We'll talk about it. Very, yeah, they attacked us. Do you have any more questions?
No.
All right. So now what I want you guys to do is finish the assignment that's on the other board, and then if you have any more questions about anything that's on the board, be sure to let me know. Make sure you copy down all of your notes, and tomorrow we'll finish talking about the start of World War II. All right?